April 8, 2021. A 21-year-old Cameron Herrin stands before a judge about to hear a sentence that will destroy him in ways execution never could. 24 years in prison. Cameron Herrin's face went pale as reality hit, but what awaited him behind those walls was far worse than anyone in that courtroom could imagine. The moment those prison gates slammed shut, Cameron vanished into a nightmare designed to break him, but millions of eyes remained fixed on his every move. Let me explain why Cameron received this sentence. On May 23, 2018, he was street racing at over 100 miles per hour on Tampa's Bayshore Boulevard when he struck and killed 24-year-old Jessica Reisinger-Robinolt and her 21-month-old daughter Lilia. The judge handed down 9 years for Jessica's death and 15 years for Lilia's death to run consecutively. No parole, no early release, no second chances.
So on count 1, vehicular homicide, the court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in the Florida State Prison. On count 2, same charge, the court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that'll run consecutive to count 1 for a total 24 years Florida State Prison.
But here's what nobody in that courtroom fully understood that day. What Cameron was about to face behind bars would make some people argue that execution might have been the more merciful option. The case exploded on social media. Thousands flooded the internet with posts about him. But we'll get to that disturbing phenomenon in a moment, because first you need to understand where Cameron ended up. The judge's gavel came down and Cameron's old life ended, but his new one was about to begin in ways he never could have imagined. After sentencing, Cameron was transferred to Graceville Correctional Facility in northern Florida. This isn't some low-security facility you see in movies. This is a medium to close custody prison housing nearly 2,000 male inmates. Concrete walls stretching up to barbed wire, steel bars that slam with a sound you never forget, and fluorescent lights that never quite feel like daylight. This became home. Let me walk you through what his world looks like now, because understanding this is crucial to answering our central question. Cameron's life is controlled down to the minute: when he wakes up, when he eats, when he showers, when he gets his single hour of recreation. There's no privacy in prison. Someone is always watching and someone is always nearby. He shares living space with other inmates in dormitory-style housing or cells depending on current assignments. But here's what makes Cameron's situation uniquely brutal compared to other inmates. Cameron became one of the most recognized prisoners in America, not for the right reasons. After his sentencing, something bizarre and deeply troubling happened. Social media exploded with posts defending him. Thousands of people, mostly young women, created fan pages, edited his court appearance photos like he was a celebrity, and sent him love letters. Videos defending him racked up millions of views. People from countries around the world, including Turkey and Iran, flooded platforms with messages arguing his sentence was too harsh. The hashtag Justice for Cameron trended globally on TikTok and Twitter. The focus wasn't on justice for Jessica and Lilia, it was on his appearance. Now you might think this attention would help him somehow, but let me tell you why it actually made everything exponentially worse. Other inmates see this viral obsession. They watch as someone who took a mother and baby's lives gets treated like a heartthrob online. And in prison culture, where reputation is everything, this creates a target on his back that never goes away. The judge denied his appeal. The social media campaigns changed nothing about his legal reality. They only changed how he's perceived behind bars. While strangers debate his looks from the safety of their phones, Cameron sits in a cell knowing none of it matters and all of it makes him more vulnerable. Let me explain something critical about prison social structure. There's a hierarchy and it's brutal. At the top are inmates who've earned respect through time served and conduct. At the bottom are those who've harmed children or shown the kind of recklessness that destroys innocent lives. The fact that it was vehicular manslaughter rather than premeditated murder doesn't matter to many inmates. A baby is dead because of his choices. In their eyes, this puts him in the lowest category, and unlike death row inmates who are kept in protective isolation, Cameron has more freedom of movement throughout the facility, which means more exposure to potential violence. He has to watch his back constantly and choose his words carefully, because prison violence can erupt over anything. One misunderstood comment, one perceived sign of disrespect. Every footstep behind him could be a threat, and every day he knows there are inmates who would gain respect among prisoners for hurting him. His daily routine is monotonous beyond comprehension. Wake up when the lights come on, no snooze button, no sleeping in. Institutional breakfast that's bland and repetitive. Nothing like the comfortable middle-class upbringing he had. Work assignments or educational programs that don't change his fundamental reality. Lunch, limited yard time under supervision, dinner, then back to his housing unit until lights out. Tomorrow he wakes up and repeats this exact cycle for 24 years. But the physical confinement, that's just the surface level of what Cameron endures. What's happening to his mind is where this sentence truly becomes devastating. Here's what most people miss about long prison sentences. It's not just about being locked up, it's about the crushing psychological weight of time. Cameron was 21 when sentenced. He won't walk free until he's 45 years old. Let me put that in perspective for you. Your 20s and 30s, the years when most people fall in love, build careers, travel the world, get married, have children, create the foundations of their entire adult life. Cameron will experience none of that. His existence will be frozen inside those concrete walls while everyone he knows moves forward without him. And here's the part that makes this potentially worse than death. With execution, there's a date, a specific endpoint when the suffering concludes. There's finality. Cameron faces something entirely different. He faces decades of identical days knowing exactly what every morning will bring for the next 2.5 decades. He can't count down to release like someone with a 3 or 5 year sentence. His future is set in stone with no light at the end of the tunnel, and that absolute certainty, that complete absence of hope, is its own unique form of torture. Studies on long-term incarceration show it fundamentally changes brain structure through constant stress, lack of autonomy, and isolation from normal society. It creates anxiety and depression that never fully heal. Cameron is living this reality right now and will continue for 20 more years. Now let me shift focus to something equally important. The people whose lives were shattered that day in May 2018. While Cameron serves his sentence, Jessica's family continues to grieve in ways most of us cannot fathom. Her husband David lost his wife and infant daughter in a single horrific moment. During the trial, he gave a statement that cut to the heart of this tragedy, describing the agony of losing the woman he planned to grow old with and the baby girl, who had barely begun to experience life. Jessica's father Bob spoke about how his daughter had her entire future ahead of her and how little Lilia would never get to have a childhood, never go to school, never fall in love, never have any of the experiences Cameron will still eventually have even after prison. These family members carry unbearable pain every single day. And Cameron knows this. He wakes up with the knowledge that he destroyed an entire family and goes to sleep knowing 2 people are dead because of choices he made in moments of reckless thrill-seeking. No amount of prison time brings them back. Nothing he says or does will undo May 23, 2018. This weight follows him every moment of every day and will continue long after his release. So this brings us back to the question I posed at the beginning. Is this actually worse than the death penalty? Let me lay out both perspectives fairly because this isn't a simple answer. Some people argue Cameron deserves every single day behind bars. He chose to race at over 100 miles per hour on a road where families walk. He had a history of extreme speeding. 2 innocent people died as a direct result of his reckless behavior, so he should lose the prime years of his life just as Jessica and Lilia lost all of theirs. Justice demands serious consequences for serious crimes regardless of age or appearance. Others argue 24 years is excessively harsh for an 18-year-old who didn't intend to kill anyone. They point to brain development research showing young people assess risk differently and that rehabilitation rather than warehousing should be the goal. They ask whether destroying his entire adult life serves any purpose beyond punishment. But here's what both sides might be missing. Housing Cameron costs Florida taxpayers approximately $50,000 annually, over $1.2 million across his sentence. Yet this cost represents something larger, a living example that might prevent the next teenager from making the same catastrophic choice. Every young person who hears Cameron's story might think twice before street racing. In that sense, his punishment serves a purpose beyond his individual case. Let me take you into Cameron's future for a moment. Imagine it's 2045 and he's being released at age 45. He walks out into a world transformed by technology and social change he hasn't experienced. His peers are established in careers, raising teenagers, planning for retirement. Cameron will be starting from absolute zero. No recent work experience, no professional network, no savings, no career trajectory. Finding employment will be brutal as employers see vehicular homicide and 24 years in prison on his record. The jobs available will likely be low-wage manual labor. Building relationships will be complicated in ways most people never face. How do you explain to someone you're interested in that you spent your entire adult life behind bars? How do you build trust when your past includes taking 2 lives? And perhaps most significantly, he'll still be Cameron Herrin. The internet never forgets. People will recognize him and judge him. His punishment extends far beyond the official sentence and will follow him until the day he dies. In many ways, his sentence never truly ends. Does Cameron feel genuine remorse? This is something people constantly debate. In court, he appeared emotional and cried when sentenced. He's written apology letters to Jessica's family. He's claimed he thinks about the tragedy every day. But we can't know what truly goes on in someone's mind. Is he sorry for what he did or sorry he got caught? Is he grieving for the victims or for his lost freedom? These questions may never have clear answers. What we do know is this: whether his remorse is genuine or not, it changes nothing. The victims remain gone and he remains imprisoned. Which brings us to the final point you need to consider. Cameron Herrin will spend the next 2 decades waking up every morning in a prison cell, facing identical routines, missing everything that makes life worth living, and carrying the weight of knowing he ended 2 lives. He'll never be the carefree teenager he was before May 23, 2018, and he'll never escape what he did. So here's my question for you. Is 24 years of this existence actually worse than execution? Does this sentence serve justice, or does it cross a line? Leave your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to hear your perspective on this. And if this video made you think differently about criminal justice, hit that like button and subscribe, because next week we're diving into another case that will challenge everything you think you know about sentencing. Thanks for watching.